Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Final Fantasy Brave Exvius. My name is Mars, and today we will be talking about 7-star Aranea. And I apologize, I have a slightly different format yet again, because I'm still trying to find exactly the best way that works for me and in the way that I can produce videos. So, today, coming at you, a little bit different, but all the same, this is the complete guide for Aranea, who is one of the newest members of the 7-star roster in Brave Exvius. And she is a very unique unit in that she is a Dragoon jumper type unit who can do jump damage, which is a unique mechanic in the game that many people don't quite understand. So hopefully this guide can help you understand how you can make the most out of Aranea or other jumpers like her. So the first thing I want to do is review some of the changes, some of the differences, and kind of the base stuff that we get with Aranea. So, first thing, her TMR is Stoss Spear, which is 140 attack, that gives her high jump, which increases her jump damage by 100%, which is important if you're using her as a jump damage dealer, and it also gives some nice variants. So, she is a two-handed damage dealer, and for now we're basically locked to using this weapon until we get the quality of life improvement that allows us to use STMRs to activate trust abilities as well. Which, speaking of her STMR, it's Skylancer, which is basically Cloud's Buster style TMR with an extra 30% attack thrown in, if I can even just show that, 30% attack thrown in there for having a spear equipped, which is quite nice for herself, as well as any other double hand spear users you may use, which admittedly they're not that common. However, you can use it for units like Hyo if you have Nalu's STMR and you want to use a Thunder Spear with damage variants or something like that. Definitely an option, and it's a nice one to pick up. You'll certainly never need 4 Araneas or 2 Araneas or however many Araneas of your own. You just need the one, so definitely go for this STMR. Now, as far as what her kit originally brought as a 6-star unit, it brought a handful of jumps and some other abilities that most of the time you didn't really bother with, to be honest. Air Recovery is an okay ability to help her recover some HP and MP, as well as do some damage. Air Innovation allowed her to fill her limit burst gauge, do some damage, and Swooping Low allowed her to do some AoE damage, and then some single target damage. But of course, these jumps had the same problem as most other jumps have, in that they arrive on the top of the following turn. So if we do Air Innovation, you'll see that it comes down next turn regardless of whether or not I want it to. It comes down on its own accord, which it does a fair amount of damage, which is nice, but it also means that if I have any hopes or prayers of finishing a chain, it's not really possible with these jumps. Now this is where the new additions to her 7-star kit do come in handy. The first one is Dragoon Dive, which is a 1-turn jump with a timed jump delay. And so if you're looking at a Dragoon unit, you do want to keep an eye out for timed jump delay abilities, because these allow you to jump up in the air, and then the following turn, you'll see what it looks like. Go ahead and show that off real quick. On the following turn, you'll see an icon that indicates she's ready to drop down. So if you want to use chainers in your party, like if you're crazy and decide, hey, let's use Knight Delita and Merc Ramza in a party, you can chain them up and finish that chain with Aranea, which I can't even see all the numbers on that. That didn't seem to do super well. Either way, that's not her most powerful jump move anyways. It is nice to have it on one turn, and it is nice to be able to finish with it. And one thing to keep in mind, the 4.7 times modifier doesn't look good, but we'll talk about why it's good in just a second. But first, let's re-enter so that we have some extra turns, and we'll talk about some of her other skills. She also gets a cooldown skill called Aerial Supremacy. This is a 5-turn cooldown available on turn 1 that increases her attack by 200% for 4 turns, which is nice, and it fills her limit gauge by 15, which is quite a lot. I believe that's half. Yeah, that's half of her limit gauge, so that's kind of nice for that. Now, the skill that I've really been fascinated with is High Dragoon Dive, which is a 7.5 times modifier with a 2-turn jump delay, which means that she's going to pop up in the air, and she's not going to show up again until the top of turn 3, which is totally fine. We'll just go ahead and get to that spot. Repeat. Alright, in the top of turn 3, this is also a time jump, so you have the opportunity to tap her phrasing, to have her finish on a chain. So, oops, don't do that. And that one does quite a bit more damage, as you can see. So, yeah, for an unoptimized setup with an unoptimized Aranea, 175 million, that's not bad. And this skill is really nice for one-shotting bosses, and so in my Aranea Tour of Destruction, that's probably what you saw, was her jumping up and then 2 turns down, coming down on the boss, ending their lives, because it really does do a ton of damage. And speaking of damage skills, let's touch real quick on her Limit Burst. High Wind, 12 times modifier, ignore 50% defense, so that's a 24 times modifier. That's pretty good. It is a single target attack. So if you need some single target damage, that one can do the job for you. It is also really nice for LB finishes because it has a nice wind-up time, so it's pretty easy to finish with, and it does do quite a lot of damage. So, as far as the passives that she received at 7 stars, with her TMR equipped, she gets 50% attack and 25% accuracy when single-wielding a weapon, so basically having it equipped gives her 50% true double hand, and she gets 40% attack. So for the most part, you are going to want to have this spear equipped, and then she gets some extra defense, and then she gets some HP and MP, which she needed, and she got mostly HP is what she needed. But to be fair, most turns she's not even present on the battlefield. But the big one is getting the increase to her jump damage, and this is where Dragoons kind of become interesting to me. 50% jump damage, and she has more jump damage somewhere in here. I'm probably looking right at it, and I'm just blind to it, and that happens all the time to me. So, there it is, 100% jump damage, like looking right back at me. So, we have 150% between these two passives, and then we have another 100% from the Stas Spear. And now, if you're using a Dragoon as a jump unit, you should use the Dragoon's Gauntlet, which gives you high jump. So if we open that up real quick, Dragoon, hopefully that's at the top, Dragoon's Gauntlet. Oh my goodness, what have I done? I thought I was doing this the easy way. Okay. Dragoon's Gauntlet. Would have had this prepared in advance, but I forgot. Okay, this also increases your jump damage by 100%. So, that's 100% plus 150% from her passives, plus another 100% from Stas Spear. That's 350%, which means that when you look at a jump skill modifier, you multiply that by the percentage increase from the jump passives. So it's a flat modifier, meaning that instead of a, let's go to a calculator app real quick because it's late and I'm tired. That's a clock. Calculator. Once again, I'm probably going blind. There we go. So if we have 7.5 times modifier times, what is it, 350%? That means 3.5 times. So that finishing move is a 26.25 times modifier skill, which is why it does a ton of damage. And this is true for all Dragoons. Roberta, Duke, Aranea, anybody with a jump skill, if you have jump passives, this is why it does so much damage, because the modifier looks quite low, but it's not. Now, this is all well and good. Right now, honestly, I think Aranea is probably best suited to be a jump finisher, and you can maximize her damage by having an external imbuer and external imperiler, because she doesn't have any of that in her kit, and the Stas Spear is non-elemental, which means that if you want to maximize her outgoing damage, you're going to want to make sure that you have the imbue and the imperil. Of course, if you overkill the boss without any difficulty, then you may not need it. The other thing I'll point out is that Aranea is excellent against demons, mechanical, and undead monsters. That's what sets her apart compared to other Dragoons, because if you look at Roberta or Duke, they have killers against dragons primarily, which is great. I think also birds for Duke. So they have bird and dragon killers, which is great. Having some Dragoon options for demons, machines, and undead, that's awesome to me. That's exciting. Because that means that if you have all those Dragoons, you could potentially take one into most different fights. So, for now, that's my recommendation with her. We'll look at her jump build here in a second, but I do want to touch on her enhancements that she currently has in the JP version of the game, because we will likely get something similar or better than this. I seriously doubt they would nerf this for us in the global version. I don't think they actually ever do that. So this is something that we could potentially look forward to and enjoy with Aranea. So two of the skills that they enhance are her old jump skills. They do increase the modifier quite a bit, so it is an impressive 750% on this one and 600% on this one, which is very strong. And these ones do come down in just one turn. However, they are not the timed jump ones. So that means that you won't be able to finish a chain with them, but they only take one turn to come up and then come back down, and it does a pretty solid amount of damage. I personally don't see myself enhancing these simply because those timed jumps are too good. But the other reason I don't see myself enhancing these two jumps is because with her enhancements, she gets this absolute monster of an enhancement. This is her true double hand passive that gives her an extra 30% attack with a spear, which is nice, and it also increases her limit burst damage by 50%, and that is huge. So if you were to combine that with something like Squall's STMR, you're looking at her limit burst, which is normally a 25 times modifier, and that's becoming almost or maybe a little bit more than a 48 times modifier, which is humongous for a finishing skill. So in my opinion, when she gets her enhancement, she's going to transition to becoming a limit burst finisher for you, and she's going to be one of the best ones in the game. I believe. You know, of course I don't know the landscape of JP that well, and things do change pretty quickly over there, but if you're looking for a limit burst finisher, Aranea is going to be your girl. Now on top of that, she does get some enhancements to her killers, which is excellent. When I see a unit with killers, I get excited because that screams to me specialization. So if you run into the undead, machines, or demons, Aranea is even better at killing them. So that's where we're going to transition into some of the differences in builds. So for right now, the build I would recommend, you can go into the builder, I would select one of her jumping skills, and it will help you maximize your damage with a jumping skill, which is going to be most important for her for now. This means that she's going to use her spear for that jump passive. It means you're going to use Dragoon's Gauntlet for that jump passive, as well as Sworn Six Pride Wind for that jump passive as well. So all of those are going to be elements. If you have Dragoon's Wisdom, which I believe is Roberta's STMR, this is also highly recommended because it will increase your jump damage modifiers. And then aside from that, you're just going to slap on the rest of the attack stuff that you have available to you. And for now, this is going to be a very strong and very serviceable way to use a Dragoon unit. And this same sort of build principle is going to apply to any Dragoon currently in the game. Because of Sta Spear's jump, 100% jump, that's really nice if you use Roberta or even if you use Duke. This is a strong contender for jump damage. So, pretty simple in my opinion. It's nice that we have something that's free as part of our build. The Dragoon's Gauntlet, I believe, comes from one of the key chest thingies. And of course the rest of these you can replace with whatever materials that you happen to have. Obviously you don't have to use STMRs, but this is kind of just to show kind of the upper echelon of where you can take her build. Now once her enhancements come out, I will be running a slightly different build personally, because I want to use that limit burst damage because it's so good. And if you can make it happen, if you have Squall's STMR, take that. I mean, Alliance Heart is going to be amazing for her. And then one of the other things to keep in mind is if you have her STMR, you also don't have to equip Sta's Spear anymore. Once we get that quality of life that JP is getting where STMRs trigger your trust passives. So what this means is I can trade this for something like Vajrayana, which is a Thunder Spear, and she's going to be dishing out way more damage, assuming I have an Imperiler. So, and again, this is definitely like upper echelon sort of builds. If you want to go full budget build, all you have to do is go to a build like this and start trading out some of your items for, because that's the thing. Okay, let's have a heart-to-heart real quick. I have a really difficult time with budget builds because everybody has different things. Some people are going to have a Fallen, or some people are going to have an Atoning Dragoon Kane. So if we wanted to do Kane's helmet, that's 40 attack, or if we wanted to do Folan's helmet, that's 28 attack, and those are usually going to be better than your budget options, and so on and so forth. And so for me to say like, oh, this is your budget build, it precludes things that could be better. So maybe you don't have Rider's Armor, which is an STMR, but maybe you've pulled so many Veritas of the Light that you have, you know, her STMR. That's great. That works too. Her restriction, of course, is that you need a helmet. She cannot wear hats, which is unfortunate, and she needs a type of armor. She cannot wear clothes or robes. So those are your big restrictions as far as those pieces are concerned. And then, yeah, always make sure that you have room for a killer in here. Subservient is worth trading for a killer of some kind, so whatever it is. And you can make this work. Let's just actually make an entire budget build real quick. Kind of. I mean, it's hard with true double hand stuff being locked to 5-star base units and 5-star base units and STMRs. However, you don't have to have it. You can still get quite a lot of benefit from her even without the STMRs. So, anyways, I think that just about covers it. Aranea, in my opinion, is just a fun unit to use, and for me it was exciting because I've never had a Dragoon before. Like, how would you ever get tired of that? You know what I mean? So for me, I'm excited about it. I definitely plan on using her as much as I can. I will say that you definitely have opportunities to play with unique strategies using a Dragoon as opposed to a traditional chaining setup. So let's actually talk about that real quick. I didn't want to delay any further, but let's talk about ways that you could actually use her as part of a team, because that's often the tricky part that people run into. Is they're like, okay, well, she's good as a finisher, but how do I fit her on my team? So this Mercenary Ramza and Knight Delita are great examples of units that can do two things at once. So if you look right here in this party of 5, I have Mercenary Ramza, who is a tank. I have Knight Delita, who is a breaker. I have Zargaboth, who is a support buffer. I have Ayaka, who is a healer. And I can take a friend breaker if I wanted to. That way you have basically all of your roles set up and ready to go. And then, like you saw, I can use turns 1 and 2 for Mercenary Ramza to do his tanking, Knight Delita to do his breaking, and then Aranea comes down on turn 3, which is a free turn for both of these units, so then they can use their, what is it called? Their super special bromance chaining skill, Raging Inferno, for example. You can also do this with other units, like if we used Lilith with Lauren. Lilith can do Auriel Ray chaining skills, as can Lauren. So what that means is Lilith can tank, Lauren can break, and then on the turn that your Dragoon comes down, they can chain up together to give that chain modifier to your Dragoon as it lands on the boss. And there are tons and tons and tons of setups like that. I believe, what's his name, Beryl? Beryl's an Octaslash chainer, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure he is. If he's an Octaslash chainer, that means he can chain with Zargaboth, which means that you can pair them together. So turns 1 and 2, you can do your support rotation, your tank rotation, and then on turn 3 when Aranea comes down with her jump, then you can chain it up and finish with it. So it's something that I think is super exciting. I love that about Dragoon units, is because they have such strong finishing moves, it does allow you to be very slot efficient with your party. So as far as whether or not it's worth it to invest in Aranea, or whether or not it's worth it to like UOC Aranea, let's talk about that real quick. Aranea is worth it for the investment if you have the rest of your bases covered. Because she can dish out a lot of damage, I think she's a good unit. I enjoy using her, and so for me, that's a good enough reason. If you don't like her, if you think she's ugly, if you think her kit is cumbersome, if you don't care to bother with external imbues or imperils or any of those other things that may be a little bit of a headache with her, then that's totally fine. She's also someone that you can pass on. And that goes for most Dragoons. I feel like this applies to most of them. As far as whether or not she's worth a unit of choice ticket, I believe that she's really not. As much as I like her and as much fun as she is to use, I don't really think that she's worth anybody's 10 UOCs unless you just really, really wanted her, which is always, in my opinion, a good enough reason to pull for a unit. So that's been my complete guide for Aranea. I've had a lot of fun playing with her. For people who need that strong 7-star finisher or a Dragoon, she's definitely somebody that can do the job for you. And let me know in the comments, is she someone that you've used before? Is she someone that you're excited to see more use out of? Let me know your thoughts and feelings in the comments, and I will see everybody in the next video.